right, good morning. Great to see you guys this morning. I love it when that happens. Like, I don't know, maybe you were in the back, you saw that, but this side is still talking, and everybody on this side is already sitting down, and these guys, like half of these guys are standing. It's like, how do we did somebody like at the door tell you, oh, if you're going to talk a lot, sit on that side? Like, no, I didn't see that happening, but we just kind of, I don't know, I love it. Some of that stuff I just get so intrigued by. But hey, my name is Samuel, and it's just my absolute honor, really just Becca and I's honor to get to serve you guys here at Life West. If I have not met you, please say hi afterwards. I'd love the honor of shaking your hand and hearing your name, get to know you a little bit. But welcome to Life West. You picked a great week to be here. We're starting a relationship series this weekend. Just a quick reminder, everybody, Valentine's Day is this weekend. So you're welcome, and I'm sorry, because now you don't have an excuse. I didn't know. Now you do. Now you know. So I took that one away. But welcome to Life West. Glad that you guys are here. I want to kind of start off with a little story thing. I'll call it that, a story thing. So this man has a doctor's appointment. So his wife is like, all right, let's go. And man and his wife, they go to the doctor, and he has to get this whole big checkup thing, and he's just not doing well. And afterwards, the doctor comes out. Husband's gone, so getting dressed again after all that fun stuff at the doctor's office, and the doctor says to the wife, says, excuse me, could you come with me? And so they step into the doctor's office, and the doctor looks at the woman and says, it's not good. Your husband has a very rare disease combined with an enormous amount of stress, and it's not good. But if you do everything that I say, he can make it. And she says, well, what do I need to do? And he says, well, number one, when he wakes up in the morning, you need to have breakfast ready. When he gets up, just have breakfast ready. When he goes to work, we already mentioned the stress. So what you need to do is when he's at work, you leave him alone. You don't text, you don't call. That's going to mix home and work and that stress, and you leave that there. And then when he comes home, have the house ready. Make the house a place of peace. So you're anticipating he comes home. Don't have like a honey-do list or a bunch of chores lined up for him when he comes home. Just make home peaceful. She's like, okay. And then he says, now, and then like dinner should be small. He needs a small dinner, but it needs to be consistent. A lot of what he needs is consistency. So it needs to be around the same time every day. The same time. She says, okay, what else? And he's like, and then you're going to need to be making love like 3-4 times a week. He's going to need that. It's really good for him. And if not, then you can substitute that for a massage. About 30-minute massage that you could give him, just take care of him. And I tell you that if you do that, he can live another 15 or 20 years. So she leaves the office, and she takes that in. She's just thinking about everything the doctor just said. They get in the car, and her husband, and they're on their way home, and she's thinking about all this, and the husband looks over and is like, what did he say? What's going on? What did the doctor say? And she looks over at him, and she says, honey, I'm so sorry. The doctor says you're going to die. It's a funny joke. It's a funny joke. But then I think about that joke after I heard it the first time, and I'm like, but I'm married. Like, and what does it mean to be married? Like really? And if I was to ask, like, who wants an amazing, love-filled marriage, raise your hand. I think like all of us, like, yes. Even people who aren't married were like, well, if I am going to get married, that's what it would need to be. Like, that's what I need to be. But I think a better question might be, are you willing to pay the price to have a great marriage? Are you willing to do what it takes? In our joke, she wasn't. She wasn't. She's like, you're going to die. Like, no, this is not going to work. But understand this. Everybody, every marriage that we get into, all of it is going to take work. It's going to take work for us to have a great marriage. It's just a matter of how much work are we willing to put in to have a great marriage. And here's the thing. Often, it's the things that we don't want to do. Those things are the very things that give us the results that we want. So often, it's the things that we don't want to do that give us the results, the outcomes that we want. Example one, working out. Like, we don't want to do that, but we want that body. We'd like to feel better. We want that energy, right? But I don't want to go run. But I want the energy. I want the result. I want to burn those calories. But I don't want to do those. But that's not the thing that I want to do. I don't want to say no to that purchase, but if I do, I'm not going to be able to pay my bills. But if I do, I'm not going to be able to do this thing later. But if I do, I won't be able to hit some goals. But if I do spend this money, I'm going to get myself in some trouble. It's a thing so often that we don't want. When Molly and Avery were little, this would happen quite often. That I'd put them to bed, and when kids are little, putting them to bed is like murdering them, right? No, don't make me go to sleep. Don't do it. And so they're always trying to find excuses to go, I got to go to the bathroom again. I got to drink of water. I spilled my water. Whatever it is, right? Well, Molly and Avery, this would happen on a regular basis, and it usually happened at night. Avery comes downstairs. She's like, Molly won't tell you, but she's got a sliver. And I'm like, oh. Because here's what would happen. Molly would get a sliver and then not say anything because she didn't want to mess with it. And she wouldn't say anything. So and I don't know how long it would go on, but what would happen is I'd go up there and I look at this thing, and it's just this tiny little thing in her foot or wherever it was. But she did not want anybody to touch it, so she would leave it in there until it got green and pussy and nasty and oozy and gross. And we were like, Molly. And she's like, no. She's hiding under the covers, crawling under the bed. And then it just got worse because I'd be like, okay, we have to do something about this. And she would just be like, no. And she wouldn't just say like, no, but she would scream and run and hide, and she's got this thing on her foot, and it's like, if you would just let me get it out, I'll take care of it. But she did not want anybody to touch it. And no lie, like Becca would hold her down on the table, and I'm sitting there trying to get this thing out, but all she wants to do is just kick and scream, and she is screaming bloody murder at the top of her lungs. If you were walking by our house, you're like, they're killing someone in there. Like, I hear it right now. That's the sound of somebody dying. That was her every single time. Every time. She did not want that thing taken. It was the very thing that she needed. And it would solve the problem, and if had we taken care of it sooner, it would not be a big deal at all. But she would just kick and fight and scream. Oh, it was awful. It was awful. But can I say, I really think in many areas that is such a picture of us. That we do not, the thing that we want the result, but the thing that's going to get us there are so often the very things that we do not want to do. Proverbs 21:25 says this, despite their desire, the lazy will come to ruin, for their hands refuse to work. I have a desire. I would love my marriage to be great, but I want it to get great just sitting here. Can I do that? Can I just sit here and it get better? Like, I'd love that. Chances are, if you're in this room, yes, but you have to do the things that we're saying to do. But otherwise, just sitting really isn't going to make much of a difference. It says the desire of the lazy does nothing for them. So the question isn't what do you want your marriage to be? The question is, what are you willing to do? What price are you willing to pay to make your marriage great? Goals and desires do not determine outcome. Sitting there in the corner being like, it's not great, does not determine outcome. It's what we're going to do. It's the things that we're going to do. It's the time that we invest. It's the dates. It's the walks. It's the attitudes that we choose to have with each other. It's spending time together, which, by the way, I hope that you know this, but quality time is a byproduct of just spending time together. I'm one of the people that I like, if I'm going to do something, I want it to be great. And if it's not going to be great, I really don't want to do it. I don't want to like halfway do something at all. So I want it to be great. So what that does to me, though, is like, well, if we're going to go do something, it's got to be something great. I don't want to just like go do something, you know. I want it to be great. But what I find is that when we just spend some time together, we come across these moments that I couldn't even plan if I wanted to. I couldn't plan them. Not too long ago, we went kayaking. And it's something that we do all the time. We go kayaking, we drop the kayaks in, and we're just cruising down the river, and it's great. But on this particular time, we're going down the river, now we're standing there, and this was a couple months ago, so the bucks are chasing the does, and we come around a corner, and there's a doe over here in the corner, and then a buck stands up, and it's probably from me to Joel away, as this buck stands up and walks off to the side, and we're just quietly coasting down the river, and I just look at her, and she's like, so we're just sign language and who knows what back and forth. It's like, it was over there. That's awesome. And then this doe jumps in the river right in front of me and crosses. Well, the buck's like, well, if that's where the doe is, and all this time I'm going downriver and this is in front of me. So the buck's like, well, if that's where the doe's going, well, that's where I want to be. So probably, again, from me to Joel away, the front row right here, this buck, this big 8-point, jumps in the river, trying to swim across, get across. There's a fence right up on this bank on the other side. And I'm like, he's going to get his horns caught in that thing. Like, what's going to, and somehow he just does this little like twist thing, goes underneath the fence, jumps up and takes off. And I'm like, so I turn around, Beck's like, we don't really want to say anything. And we're like, we don't want to talk, but we want to see deer. And we're like, I couldn't plan it. But we're both like, that was so cool. But it's just one of those things that happens when we spend time. Everything just happened to be right. And if you're like me and what you're thinking is, well, I want it to be great, and because I can't make it great, is it really worth doing anything? And the answer is yes. Some of the greatest moments come from just spending time together, where you happen to be just sitting there together at the window and you're doing your devotions, and that bird just comes right up to you, and you're like, holy cow, it's right there, and you're watching this happen, and you're like, whoa. It's just because we happen to be at the right place at the right time, that our planning, that we think this isn't that great, becomes an amazing, it becomes that like, do you remember when? Those remember when moments. So just make room for them. Make room for them. And they can be so hard to plan, so just make room for them. So again, goals are great. Goals are great. But then the question is, so what's hindering? What's hindering? It's great to have a goal, but it's never going to be great. It is never going to be great just because we have a goal. We have to pursue it. Make it great. Well, one of the ways that we make it great is by saying, what is in the way? What is in the way? Hebrews 12:1 says this, therefore, since we're surrounded by such a great cloud of witness, let us throw off everything that hinders and the sin that so easily entangles. It says, throw off things that hinder and the sin that so easily entangles. Now, if you've got some sin in your life, just stop. There you go. Okay? Just stop. But then it says, and the things that hinder. So we have to look, if we want a great marriage, and are we willing to pay the price to make it great? Well, one of those questions that we need to ask ourselves is this. What is hindering my relationship with my spouse? What is hindering my relationship with my spouse? It says, throw off the things that hinder and the sin. And some of these things, they're not necessarily bad, but they're hindering. They're hindering. So what am I going to do with this? I used to say jokingly, but it was kind of true. I used to say, I think I'm a great husband 10 months out of the year. And then there's deer season. But other than that, I think I'm a great husband. And it was a joke, but it was also true. And it's just this huge battle because I want to be out hunting, but I want to be home. And then I go out hunting, and then I don't get anything. And then she's like, well, yeah, I'm glad you're hunting, but I'd love to spend some time with you. And I'm like, but I want both. I want them both. I want the big buck, and I want you. But it just got this. It was just in the way. It's just in the way. So I looked at it and I'm like, okay, I have to do something about this. Hunting's not a bad thing, but in the wrong place, it's not okay. I don't know what it might be for you. It could be a hobby. It could be golf. It could be TV. It could be your phone. It could be screen. It could be work. There's 1,000 things that it could be. But for me, it's like, okay, so I have to fix this and reprioritize this. One of the ways that I did that for Becca was November 15, I took her antiquing one year. If you don't know what November 15 is, let me put that in a little bit of context. November 15 is the opening day of gun season. Like the best day to hunt, because after that, everybody's been in the woods and the deer are like, ah, and they hide. Okay? They gone. They just disappear. I took that day and we went shopping and we hung out together. And she says, she's like, that changed something for her. She's like, that changed something for her. And now, that was many years ago, and now I hunt. I honestly think I hunt more than I did then, and she's happy. She's like, there's times she's like, are you hunting in the morning? I'm like, I don't know. And she's like, you should. And I'm like, yeah, I think so too. Yeah, I'm getting out there. One of the things, we looked for land for a really long time. And one of the things that she began to look for is I'd suggest some different pieces, and this happened over and over, and she said, but wait, can you hunt there? And I'm sitting there thinking like, well, I don't have to hunt. And she's sitting there and she goes, no, I want you to be able to hunt. See, here's what I want to say is, one of the things that hindered when I finally put it where it belonged and got it where it needed to be, I thought I was going to have to, or maybe thought I might have to give it up entirely, and I didn't. It was just in the wrong place. And maybe it's giving it up for a season. Maybe it's just a day, if you're lucky like me. But it's giving up and it's relentlessly, not just looking at what do I need to do, but relentlessly removing the things that get in the way of our marriage and our relationship. It's getting rid of it, saying what needs to get out of the way. Years ago, I've shared this one before, so I'm going to say like the short version of this, but one of the things that was in the way for us was a relationship. Becca had a friend that she'd come back from being with this person and just like was almost different. Like just different. You know, she'd come back and just be like, nah, 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 just like, yeah. And I'm like, it's every time you hang out with her. Like you hang out with her and you're picking up what she's got and it's bleh, okay? I don't know how else to say it. It's bleh. And it was just this attitude towards men. And I'm like, I see this. And so I tell her about it and she's like, I don't see what you're talking about. And I'm like, it's there. And she's like, I don't see it. And finally I was like, okay, I'm sure that this is it. And I asked her, I said, will you just end that relationship? And she's like, well, what do you mean? And I'm like, you need to be done. You need to not be hanging out with this woman anymore. And she's like, I don't see. She's like, but if you really, really don't want me to. And she did not see it. But she's like, if that's what you want, I won't. And she really just submitted and like did what I asked because I asked, not because it made any sense to her. And I don't remember the time frame, as I recall, probably 2 or 3 weeks later, that she was like, she came back and she goes, you were right. She goes, I broke it off. And looking now and seeing what they're doing, she goes, I recognize it now, but I didn't then. And she was willing to get rid of it. It was a friendship. It was a friendship. I think it's a great question just to ask your spouse is, are there relationships that I have that are hindering our relationship? Are there friends? Are there friends? And if they say, and if it's a friend of the opposite sex, let me just say, they do not need a reason. They do not need a reason. Your spouse does not need a reason. If you are married, one of the things you gave up is the right to choose your own friends. I don't know if you knew that. But if your spouse says, hey, that person and that person of the opposite sex is somebody I don't want you hanging around with, the answer is, okay, done. Well, what about their feelings? No, it doesn't. They don't matter. Their feelings do not matter. What matters is my relationship. So again, it comes back to the question is, not do you want a great marriage, but what are you willing to do? What price are you willing to pay to have a great marriage? Are you willing to give your spouse control over your relationships? Are you like, no, my bro code is just too great? No, it's not. We may have been tight, but we're not anymore. And again, no. You get married. It's the two becoming one, and you being like, okay, we're going to co-administer what we have, and that includes our relationships. That includes our relationships and being willing to be like, okay, when you come back and you spend time with this person, your language, your attitude towards me, your attitude towards the kingdom of God, the things of God, your attitude towards whatever it may be, like I recognize that it is not good when you get back. The Bible says, do not be fooled. This is 1 Corinthians. Do not be fooled by those who say such things. Bad company corrupts good morals. And you're like, oh no, but I'm their only Christian friend. That's not a good recipe. That's a bad recipe. That's an outreach. That's not a close friend. Invite them to men's group. Get them to, okay, we'll do those types of things, but that's it. Invite them to some things. But are you willing to be like, okay, I want a great relationship, so I'm going to do what it takes. What price are you willing to pay? What are the things that hinders you? What are those things? And then let's remove them. And remember, all relationships take effort. I say this every time we talk on marriage, but it's just something that needs to be repeated because we just have to remember this. I think the lie that we hear so often and that we're told is, if I had married somebody else, it would be easy. And the truth is, no, when you get married, you're picking your work. That's it. That's it. There's different levels. There's some you look at and you're like, well, that would be a lot more work. And I'm not willing to do that work. But it's all work. It says this, 1 Corinthians 7:28. But those who marry will face many troubles in this life. Just remember that. There's no soulmate, there's no perfect person that you wouldn't have to say anything, that they would just know your needs before you asked, and it would just be great, and you'd look at them and they would know that it's all great, and they'd look back at you and you'd wink at them, and oh, wow. That doesn't exist. Those who marry will face trouble. Because we live in a fallen world, and it's two people becoming one, and we have different ideas, and we come from different backgrounds, and we have different normals. So what we think is normal is different than what they think is normal, and you're like, no, this is just weird, and it's just, I don't know about this. And then you have kids, and you're like, well, I think it's okay for them to do this. And you're like, well, I don't think that this is okay for them to do this. And you're like, I don't know. And like, it's just different. We think differently. We are different. And that's a good thing. If two people are the exact same, one of you is not necessary. Like because you're the same. So we're just not. Becca and I, we grew up in completely different households. Totally different. What was normal to me was not normal to her. I grew up in a house, I never heard my parents argue, not one single time. But I've said this before. The reason why is because they knew Spanish. So they'd sit there talking, and then they'd be like, hey, so I'm thinking, and then it'd be, and they'd go into Spanish, and I'm like, I don't know. Okay, Becca's parents didn't speak a second language. She heard them disagree. We get married, and she disagrees, and I'm like, you're broken. Like, I don't know what's wrong with you. What is going on? That was my normal. That was not hers. She's like, no, I'm going to tell you exactly how I feel. And I'm, oh. It was different. Completely. And everything is different. We turned like 10. My dad gave us a gun, a knife, and said, go play in the woods. Like, that's what we did. You laugh. I'm serious. 12 years old. I want to go camping. He's like, okay. He takes us up to the Manistee Forest. Me and my friend Caleb drops us off and says, I'll see you in 3 days. So we just went up there and played. Not only that, but he came to visit one of the days, and we'd caught a fish. And we were camping. When I say we were camping, he's like, we're going to rough it. So we brought 2 cans of chicken noodle soup with us, and that was it. We were going to, for 3 days, we were going to catch our own food. We were going to fish. We were going to trap. We were going to kill. It was going to be awesome. Well, we caught 1 fish. It was a big one. We caught 1 fish. He came to check on us while we were out. We had eaten some of the fish. He came to our campsite, ate the rest of our fish, and left. So we get there, and we're like, there's no food. We went 3 days on a half a fish and 2 cans of chicken noodle soup. We're laying in our tent, and I'm like, I'm so hungry. Caleb's like, all I can think about is a Big Mac, a burger right now. We're just talking about food. For 3 days, we ate nothing else. But that's how I grew up. It was just completely different. I remember my friends are like, I get a BB gun when I'm like 20, and I'm like, I'm 11. I'm like, I got 2. Let's go. Grab one. And there was some good and some bad. My brother shot me in the shoulder, and I mean, and then he got it taken away. He did get it taken away. But that was just normal for me. I remember we moved to a house out on Homrich, out in Byron Center, and it had this huge beech tree in the back. When I say huge, the base of the tree when I was a kid was probably like this, and the first tree branches probably started where the roof is in here. This thing was ginormous, and so we would climb it. And the way you'd climb it is you'd go to one of the branches that came down to the ground. You jump up, grab the branch, and then crawl up it until you could flip over to the top of it, and we'd get up in the top. And I remember I was thinking about that, and I was like, how high were we? And I found a picture the other day, and it's me in my underwear hanging up at the top of this tree, and I look, and I'm like, we had a 2.5-story house, and I'm well above it. And we're just up there, and I only fell out of the tree 3 or 4 times, but they're all when it was low. That was normal. That was my normal. That's just what we did. Becca's house was a little bit different. Her dad was a doctor, and we call him Captain Safety, and he loves it. Like, he loves it. He's like, yes, I'm Captain Safety. For Christmas and birthday, I kind of know that's it. So, like, I needed some, I didn't really need, I don't know exactly, anyway. So I wanted some chainsaw chaps. So I put those on my list, and sure enough, Captain Safety gets me the chainsaw chaps. I'm like, yeah, I wanted those anyways. I needed some new earmuff things. I put that on there. It took him 3 years to get them, but I got them this year. But anyways, like she grew up completely different. Safety glasses and all that stuff, and like contact, like you get in the car and you all buckle up before anybody moves. I grew up, Dad's like, it's time to leave. He took off, you jump in the van while it's moving. It was different. It was completely different, and it wasn't a third world country. It was Byron Center, but anyways. But it was completely different. So we come at things different. And my tendency is to be like, well, your way's wrong, because I like my way. But the truth is, we want to meet in the middle, and I'm probably a little bit more on one extreme, and she might be a little bit more on the other extreme. And the truth is if we can come to the middle, it'll be probably the best. But that means we're going to come together, and we're going to talk about things, and it's not just going to be a my way or the highway. But every relationship is going to require energy. It's going to require energy. Now, I don't know all of your stories. I don't know how you met. I don't know, like, was it love at first sight, or, he had to convince and it took years for him to convince you to go out with him, or if it was an arranged marriage, or I have no idea. I don't know how the first years were, or what year you're on now, and how it went, and what arguments you've had, and who won what, and who doesn't remember, and I don't know that. But there is someone that does. And you're married to them. And I bring that up because so often our issues are like bad breath. We never realize, like, it doesn't bother us as much as it bothers everybody else. I can forget how bad my breath is. And then when it's really bad is when it bothers me. Like when your own breath bothers you, that's when it's like, whoa. Like you could probably melt paint. But our issues, that's what it is. But here's the deal. The good news is you're married to somebody that knows what your issues are. So then the question becomes, once again, not not if you want a great marriage, but are you willing to do what it takes? What's the price you're willing to pay? Are you willing to ask your spouse? What would happen if you were to walk up to your spouse and just say, hey, what's something that I could do to love you better? If they faint, pick them back up. Wait for them to regain consciousness. But what would happen? See, your spouse knows. And I can't give you a specific, like, this is the thing that you might need to give up that would make the biggest difference in your marriage. This is the thing that if you started to do would completely change everything in your marriage, in the bedroom and out. It would change everything. But your spouse knows. So what I want to do this morning is I want to give you permission. I want to ask you to ask them sometime this week. Just ask. Say, what is it? Is there something that I could do to better love you? Or is there something that you would like me to stop that you feel is getting in the way of our relationship? What is it? Whenever I do pre-marriage, one of the things, like the first week that I do, is I tell them after the first time together, the first session, is I'm like, hey, before you leave the parking lot, I'm like, I want you guys to go sit in the car. If you drove separate, get in the same car, but this is what I want you to do. I want you to get in the car, and if you have half-truth, whole-truth, or completely lied to your spouse about your future spouse, again, this is pre-marriage, about something, I said, you need to tell them. You need to come out and tell them. And maybe you're like, well, I'm ashamed of the answer, so I really just didn't want to say it. And I didn't want to say it because I knew it would hurt them, and they didn't really ask. So I kind of like, well, they didn't ask that, like specific enough to get that horrible answer, so I'm going to leave it. So I tell them, I'm like, no, you come clean and you say it all because you get married, and guess what? It will come out. I guarantee it's going to come out. You think it's buried? It's not. You think nobody else knows? Yes, they do. They will find out. And then the next week, I'm always excited to hear about it. I'm like, how'd that go? It's been very few where they're like, well, we're done. But it's happened. But what I want to do today is tell you, ask your spouse. I want to give you a reason to sit down and to air out and just simply say, what? What is it? Ask them. Proverbs 9:8 says this. It says, don't rebuke mockers, fools, or they will hate you. Rebuke the wise, and they will love you. Instruct the wise, and they'll be wiser still. Teach the righteous, and they will add to their learning. This is not an easy thing to do, to ask. Because you ask, and then what if you don't do it? What if it's that thing that they've already told us, but we just haven't done it? So they ask again, and we're like, well, you're nagging, but really, they're not really nagging. They're just saying the same thing because we haven't changed. But we shut them up by saying they're nagging. But here's what it says. Don't rebuke fools. They'll just hate you for it. Rebuke the wise, and they'll love you. Here's what I know. I know that no one can hurt me as much as Becca. No one can do the damage to me with a single word that she can. Nobody else. Not my folks, not my kids. No one. Our spouses, remember this, our spouses, when we get married, we elevate them. We've locked in. It's you, hell or high water. We're in this together. It's you and me. And then that person who we want to be vulnerable with, we take off our armor, the armor that we wear with every and anybody else. And then they say something. It hurts more than anything that anybody else could do. So be careful. You speak the truth in love. But if the wise are rebuked and they grow wiser, it might hurt because of who it's coming from. But I would just challenge you to be open and be like, okay, it might hurt a little. But if this is what I need to learn, then this is what I need to learn. Proverbs 27:6 says, faithful are the wounds of a friend, but the kisses of an enemy are deceitful. It might hurt a little. I'd be shocked if it doesn't. Or maybe you're like, actually, nope, I knew I needed to do that, and now I'm just going to suck it up and do it. Okay. But the question is not, do you want a great marriage? The question is, are you willing to do what it takes? What's the price you're willing to pay? Are you willing to be wrong? Are you willing to lay down your life? Are you willing to say, what can I do to love you better? Are you willing to say, I'm sorry. I tried, but I want to try again. Are you willing to put in work? There's nobody that would make it easy. We just choose our problems. There's nobody that would be perfect. So make it great. Choose to make it great. Your desires do not dictate how great or what your marriage will be. It's what you're willing to do. Have the conversations. Sit down, set some time aside, say, what is it? What can I do? And if it hurts a little, it hurts. If you're the one being asked, the Bible says, speak the truth in love, be gentle. But hey, this is the thing. This is still the thing. I think it would be a great place to start and watch what God can do. Because marriage is an amazing thing. It's not a nasty thing in any way, shape, or form. It's the best. The world paints a picture of marriage as like, it's lame, it's boring. You know, you can be single and lonely or married and bored. Those are your only choices. But that's not the truth. Jesus said, I came to give you life and life to the fullest. He says, he who finds a wife finds a good thing and receives favor from the Lord. Don't believe the lie that the world has tried to sell of what marriage is supposed to be. God created it and said, it's good. It's great. Don't settle. Don't just desire it to be great. Decide today, I'm going to do what it takes. Would you bow your heads and close your eyes, please? As we close this morning, I just want to ask, if you're here today and you say, I don't know where I stand with God, I'd love the honor of getting to pray with you this morning. The Bible says if we confess with our mouth and believe in our hearts that Jesus died on the cross, we will be saved. You can leave here knowing beyond a shadow of a doubt where you stand with God. So if that's you this morning, you said, today's the day I'm going to give him my life and my heart. I want to make him the Lord of my life. If that's you, I'd love the honor of praying with you right where you are. Or maybe today's the day that you say, I'm coming back. I've turned my back on him, but today I'm coming back, and I want to declare it today. If you're either of those, I'd love the honor of praying with you right in your seat. That's you. I want you to be bold and lift your hand at the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. Right now, shoot up and say, that's me. Today is my day. I'm going to give him my heart and my life. Okay, God, we just come before you this morning. God, I just thank you for every marriage that is here. God, we believe that the best is yet to come. And we don't just want great, we're willing to do the work to make it great. As we have conversations this week, as we open up maybe some wounds that we have had, God, we ask you to bring restoration and healing and hope. God, we're complete through our union with you. And we will not look to our spouses to give what only you can. God, help us to love and to care for our spouses. We thank you for all you're doing both in and through us. And God, we just ask you to lead us and guide us in all that we do. We thank you for your word. It is a lamp to our feet and a light to our path. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen, amen. Let's give a clap offering to the Lord. Thank you, Lord. Marriages are stronger today. Well, my name is Mari, and if you made that decision today, we don't want you to leave here without first meeting with one of us or being prayed over. And speaking about prayer, if you have any prayer requests, we want to pray with you. We want to lock hands with you and partner with you. So if you would come to the front at the end of service, or we have a space down the hall where we can pray in there as well. And if you're new here, welcome. We're so glad that you are here. There is a connection card right in the front of you behind the seats, and we want to give you a gift. We want to meet you, because that's our favorite thing to do here at Lifewest, is meet you and connect with you further. Now, you may see a few people. Pastor Sam had one. Did you guys see these? So this is, hello, ask me about my small group. And if you are a small group leader, please grab one. But since small groups are starting, I want to remind you that Joel's going to be right in the back, right where it says small group information, so that you can get connected with a small group, or you can start your own. So if you'd like to do that, please go ahead. We'd love to connect with you there as well. Why don't you go ahead and stand to your feet? My favorite thing to do is to bless us all out today. Let's reach up to the sky like we're going to receive a blessing from God. May the Lord bless you and keep you. May his face shine upon you and be gracious to you. May he show you his favor and his peace. In Jesus' name, we all said together, amen. Go in peace.